I bet you didn't know just how close the world came to witnessing a diplomatic shockwave at the 47th ASEAN Summit, when President Marcos Jr. stunned Xi Jinping in front of the world's most powerful leaders. On October 26, 2025, the Kuala Lumpur Convention Center buzzed with tension as leaders arrived, the city holding its breath, knowing the stakes were high. All eyes were on Philippine President Marcos Jr. and China's President Xi Jinping, seated across from each other, a reminder of the unresolved South China Sea disputes. Recent months had seen tensions rise, with naval standoffs and protests making headlines and fueling anxiety across the region. The world watched closely. Would confrontation erupt, or would diplomacy prevail? The future of Southeast Asia hung in the balance. The confrontation at the summit was the result of years of rising tension in the West Philippine Sea. This region, rich in resources and strategic importance, had become a flashpoint for international conflict. The stakes were high, and the world was watching closely. President Marcos Jr. had shifted from appeasement to assertive defense, invoking the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal Award against China's claims. This marked a significant change in the Philippines' foreign policy, signaling a new era of resistance and resilience. The Philippines became the front line in a global contest between international law and brute force. The nation's resolve was tested daily as it navigated the treacherous waters of diplomacy and defense. Dramatic footage of Chinese vessels harassing Filipino boats became routine, turning places like Ayungjin Shoal into symbols of resistance. These confrontations were not just about territory, but about national pride and sovereignty. The summit was a test of ASEAN's relevance and the Philippines' very sovereignty. It was a moment of truth for the regional bloc, which had to prove its ability to stand united in the face of external pressures. Marcos's strategy of transparency won international support, but also provoked Beijing's ire. His bold stance was a double-edged sword, garnering both admiration and animosity on the global stage. The Filipino public demanded a leader who would stand firm, and Marcos carried their hopes to Kuala Lumpur. The journey was not just political, but deeply personal for many Filipinos who saw their future intertwined with the nation's fate. His words would be scrutinized by both world leaders and millions of Filipinos desperate for a voice. The outcome of this summit could redefine the region's geopolitical landscape and the Philippines' role within it. China's campaign in 2024-2025 was systematic. Water cannon attacks, swarming militia vessels, and dangerous maneuvers against Philippine ships. Filipino sailors faced perilous missions, blocked and harassed in their own waters. China's tactics aimed to exhaust Manila's will to resist, creating a new status quo without open conflict. Each incident was documented and protested, but Beijing ignored them, escalating the psychological pressure. By the summit, the Philippines saw words as the last peaceful option to avert crisis. At the ASEAN Summit, President Marcos Jr. spoke with unwavering resolve. He described the daily struggles of Filipino fishermen, their livelihoods threatened in the West Philippine Sea. "Our patience is not infinite," he declared, condemning the repeated and dangerous actions of Chinese vessels as an affront to Filipino dignity. Looking directly at the Chinese delegation, he stated, "The West Philippine Sea belongs to the Filipino people, period." The room fell silent. Marcos invoked ASEAN's Charter and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, urging unity and a rules-based order. His message was clear: sovereignty is non-negotiable, and the Filipino people will defend what is rightfully theirs. The room froze after Marcos's declaration. All eyes turned to Xi Jinping, whose composure briefly cracked. The Chinese delegation was visibly unsettled, caught off guard by the public rebuke. State media cameras zoomed in, capturing a rare moment of vulnerability. Among ASEAN leaders, subtle nods and glances signaled support. Vietnam and Malaysia most openly, others more reserved. Marcos had voiced the anxieties of many smaller nations, shattering the illusion of ASEAN unity that often muted criticism of China. The risk he took created new political space for others to maneuver. Whispers and glances hinted at a shift in the regional consensus. For a few tense minutes, the Philippines was not alone. The summit's atmosphere had changed. Sovereignty was now at the center of the conversation. After Marcos's speech, Beijing's response was silence. No fiery rhetoric, just a formulaic statement from a low-level spokesperson. Chinese state media downplayed the incident, and analysts saw this as a sign that Marcos had cornered China diplomatically. Beijing's usual playbook, denial and counter-accusation, was ineffective against the Philippines' well-documented case. Lashing out would only confirm the image of a regional bully. Behind the scenes, Chinese leaders were reportedly furious and embarrassed. The silence was a calculated pause as Beijing reconsidered its strategy. For several days, Manila controlled the narrative, showing that assertive diplomacy could disrupt a superpower's momentum. The world saw that China's power, while immense, was not absolute. No ASEAN leader publicly endorsed Marcos, but quiet support was unmistakable. Vietnam and Malaysia's leaders met with the Philippine delegation, sharing handshakes and solidarity. Singapore and Indonesia issued statements emphasizing UNCLOS and a rules-based order, diplomatic code for supporting the Philippines. Marcos had redefined ASEAN's center of gravity, pulling it toward principled resistance. The bloc's tradition of consensus was now a tool for quiet coalition building. Beijing's strategy of dividing ASEAN was faltering as a shared sense of purpose emerged. The whispers in Kuala Lumpur warned China the smaller nations were finding their collective voice. In the Philippines, Marcos's speech sparked a surge of national pride. Social media exploded with hashtags and messages of support, uniting Filipinos across the country. Even critics praised the president's courage, seeing his stand as a restoration of national dignity. The administration's assertive policy gained powerful public backing, creating a feedback loop of support and resolve. The world took notice, amplifying the Philippines' message. Marcos's words were not just policy, they were the conviction of an entire nation. The speech transformed a complex dispute into a personal fight for honor. The Filipino spirit had found its voice. The 2025 ASEAN Summit marked a turning point for the Philippines and the Indo-Pacific. Marcos's stand established the Kuala Lumpur Doctrine, assertive transparency, courage in multilateral forums, and mobilizing national pride. The Philippines emerged as a principled middle power, offering a blueprint for smaller nations to resist coercion. The summit's impact will shape ASEAN's future, with Manila poised to lead on a binding code of conduct in the South China Sea. Quiet solidarity may soon become a united front. Ultimately, Marcos's stand was about dignity and sovereignty, values that will define the nation for a generation. In the contest of nations, conviction can be as powerful as any navy.